Please welcome Claire Vo.
Hello. Okay, I was warned. They gave me a warning about you guys in the back. They were like, you just had a big lunch. It's 2:00. We might be over it. So I've got to capture attention. The other thing is, unlike most talks I give, this is a beautiful, bright room. I can see all of you. So usually it's the front row that's under pressure, but now I need energy from everybody else. While I talk through 35 minutes, we're going to get in and out of here. You're going to be so confident in the age of AI. It's what we all want. So thank you for being here. Thank you so much to Notion for having me. I love all the releases from this morning. I'm super excited. But today I'm here to talk about AI, and in particular about how we can enter this age of AI, mostly as organizations, to be able to ship confidently. I can ship a lot of stuff in the age of AI, but can I feel good about it? So we're going to figure out a couple tactics that I think are really useful, especially for teams to really feel confident as you move into this new way of building and operating as individuals and as businesses. So this is me. I'm Claire. I'm the sole founder of ChatPRD. Somebody backstage again was like, how big's the team now? And I was like, this is the team. And so I'm building a AI platform for product managers. I host a podcast called How I AI. I've been a CPTO many times in many large organizations. And I've sort of done tech in every format you can. I have raised venture capital. I'm bootstrapped. I've been acquired. I've worked at big companies and publicly traded startups. I've been there. And I have never seen anything like I've seen the last 2 or 3 years in our industry. It's really transformed how I approach everything from a professional perspective. And I'm here to just share some lessons that I think are really practical about how teams can address this transition themselves. So the thing that I really reflect on at this moment is there is just a new baseline. Just we're playing on new rules, and everybody needs to learn to adapt. And when people talk to me, they're like, oh, Claire, you have a different life than all of us. You're at home, floating through a large language model. Your only friend is Devin. You have nothing to teach me about what it's like to be in a real company, be in a real team. But I've done this in large organizations, and I really think that you have to adapt, and probably faster than even I think the folks in this room that are probably more on the edge are adapting. And why I think you really need to adapt is I'm 1 million years old, approximately. My 8-year-old said to me the other day, hey, Mom, do you know in the olden times, in the 90s? And I was like, oh my God, the olden times. But I did a startup literally 10 years ago, exactly 10 years ago. And it took me 3 months to build a prototype. I raised $1 million when that was a big deal. My founder job was about acquiring customers and hiring the team and talking to investors. I used that money to hire people, and I spent all this time managing people, and we sat in an office, and I rented real estate. It was very strange. And I was constrained by headcount. Everything we wanted to do, it was we can't do that because we don't have enough salespeople, or we can't do that because we only have this many engineers. And I just felt really capital and people constrained. And it was a really interesting experience because now, legitimately, the prototype of ChatPRD was 30 minutes to build a V1. It's completely bootstrapped. My job now, still about customers. They're still the real boss, but it's about managing tools. I've set up, I haven't spent my time hiring. I've spent up my time, every time I think I'm constrained by a task, I think, how do I set up an automation to do this? And now I'm constrained by ideas. People are like, aren't you going to hire engineers? I was like, I don't have enough idea. I'm constrained by good user problem, margin accretive ideas more than I am about headcount or capital. It's just a totally different world. And so the rules have fundamentally changed. And the question that Notion asked me to come up here and answer is okay, the rules have changed. How are we supposed to feel good about our work? How do we feel confident? How do we actually approach this new world when the rules have changed? And again, this shift is happening for more than just startups. So like this is just an example. And I actually worked on ChatPRD for 18 months. While being CPTO, it was like totally a side hustle. I like did like 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. and then like 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. every day, all weekends, because I really felt like this investment in figuring out this AI native way of working was one of the most practical professional development exercises I could do as a technology executive. Like I didn't think that I was going to be able to effectively do my job in the next 3 years if I didn't see what was coming. And what was happening in the house, for example, in our large team established situation was just like 100% not what was coming for us. It wasn't going to be how our competitors were going to operate. It wasn't going to be how new products are going to be built. And so I felt like it was imperative that I learned this model myself and got my hands on it because I thought it would make me a better leader, and it did. The problem is, like, I whoopsied into an enterprise software business and eventually had to go full time. And that's another story for another day. But really, the intention of this initiative was for me to figure out inside a team, who is they going to compete with? How are they going to operate? How do we need to operate? And like, how can we get there faster? And so I really do believe teams of all sizes need to figure out their AI native operating model. And it's probably more extreme than what you're doing today. So practically, what do you need in order to build this AI native operating model? I think you need like a good, I know how McKinsey does presentations, 3 things. We're going to do 3 things. You need an operating model. And I really believe in systems, and you'll hear me say this a lot in this talk. You need a new way of working. You don't need like AI tools, and you don't need like tricks. You need to think like, how do we operate end to end? How is it going to be different? And then work backwards into an operating model. Second thing you need is culture. And actually, this is truly the hardest part of this transformation. There is so much entrenched in culture inside teams, small and large, that is very, very hard to change the way you do work if you do not have the right cultural attributes. And it's really hard to build new cultural attributes inside teams. And so this is a lot of what I was trying to figure out and continue to try to help people figure out is like, what are the right cultural tenets that you need inside organizations, and how do you seed those so they help drive your transformation forward? Then you need guardrails. Like, I am the poster child for like YOLO AI. I tell everybody like all the things that you're worried about with AI are like rich people problems. Like, oh, your vibe coded stuff doesn't scale. Oh, good for you. You have too many users. Like, I'm on the far edge, and yet, like, there be dragons. We're gonna figure out the things that we need to put on guardrails, because again, guardrails make people feel confident. They're gonna make your CEO feel confident. They're gonna make your team feel confident, make your customers feel confident. They'll make legal feel confident. So you definitely need guardrails. So I'm gonna talk through a couple things that I think are really practical here that you can do that I think will scaffold you up for a successful rollout in the future. Okay. So operating model. And again, I'm going to like stay with very like practical things that I think everybody should be thinking about doing, or practical things that I have approached that I think are useful. So the first thing is build the toolkit and define your flows. And I think a lot of people and a lot of teams ad hoc start with number 1, which is like, what are the tools we should learn? Like, we should learn to prototype. We should learn all these great new Notion features. We should make sure we have a contract for this. And can I legally record everybody without telling them? Like, they want tools. And what they haven't done is taken those tools, taken the people on their team, step back and said, okay, like, what are our repeatable processes? What are the repeatable playbooks that we run every day, every week, every month, where we know these tools slot in? And like, how do we change our work around those flows? And so I have 2 flows. And again, I define them as like, these are flows I use. These aren't tools I use. They're not tricks I use. They're not like products I build. They're like truly like systems that I rely on, that I know everybody on the team knows about, and that we like replay over and over and over. So I call this one the always on team flow. It's like the bonus team flow. It's like, how can we have one set of systems that does a constrained set of work for us in a regular process over time. And this is one that I use. And you'll look at this, and what you'll notice is it scares people. Sorry, I've scared you. We have roles up here, like what role does this tool play? But I think it's actually a really useful mental model to say, if this were a teammate, what title would they have? If this were a person on our team, if this was headcount I was asking for, what's the name of the headcount I would ask for? Because it's the right, we're all in organizations, right? We all understand organization dynamics. It's a very natural language, and I think it needs to be extended to how we use these workflows. So, okay, PM, define the product in chat purity. Then I click a magic button, and I get a prototype. Why do I get a prototype? Because I think it's easier to communicate what I want with a prototype. Then we pull those into Cursor via MCP, and we code the feature. So this is like, were I to... Don't tell me, I am not allowed to say replace. If I were to augment the team with a new triad, and that triad was mostly tools, what would those tools look like, and how would we feed those tools step by step? And you all do this all the time. Like, you have a product manager, and they do this, and then you have a designer, and they do that. Like, it is the flow, but I find that so many organizations don't just write down, like, this is the flow now, and for this set of work, you, like, just like you would say, you go to this PM, you say you go to this flow, and we get that done. But then there's more to that. I think where people miss out on AI right now in terms of defining their flow is they stop in maybe this like first chunk, which is a very functional view. Like this is like the EPT view, product to product something, design something, engineering code something, then like you deploy it and you get something done. But that's not where work ends in your organization. So the challenge I give to you is like, pull that flow as far as you can on the actual process that you're trying to do. Don't stay in your function or in your role, which I see so many people doing. How can I as a designer use AI to design better? How can I as an engineer? How can I as a marketer? And instead of saying like, how do we get stuff done in the org? And then how far can I pull that workflow through end to end? And so we deploy a feature, but then what we do is like we write documents for it automatically. And then this is my favorite one, which is then I would send it to product marketing and be like, can you please get me users? And we have an automated flow to get it into marketing. Again, like we could probably pull this even further. We actually do pull it further. I should put more slide here. These docs go into support documentation. Support gets fed into an AI agent triages requests. Those requests actually go back and get prioritized. And again, like that's how our functions work. I've just done the effort to actually explicitly say, this is a flow we do. This is a workflow we do. And I think you could all take a step back and probably define 4 or 5 of these inside your company that would really work for you. Another one is just my 24/7 intern flow. I run a podcast, so I don't have an admin for this podcast. So a lot of automations, I'm like, if I had like the ideal intern for the podcast, what would they do? And like they would schedule a guest, which they do. We populate Notion automatically. Prep emails get populated automatically. Research happens automatically. Then we send guests emails ahead of the show. I record it. And then we have a whole automated flow that, again, markets that podcast episode. And again, I'm giving this not as an example. Maybe this is useful to you if you're on a podcast, but more I think of it as like, if I had organizational structures that could support me, how would I design those? What would they look like? And then what tools and people would I put in that process? And then publish it and say, I think this is a new way we can do work. And what I would say is a lot of these are not analogous to how existing organization structures, but you may find that you want to do something totally different. And I think that's a really good exercise for folks to do. Okay, so first thing, define your toolkits, define your flows. You'll all go and like whiteboard this. The second thing is, I still underdo this. I do not dedicate enough time to automating the mundane. And so like, I really believe in this anti-to-do list. This is how I can like live my independent person life with no teammates or employees, which as an extreme introvert is a little gift right now. But like, I don't do this enough, which is, and I try to do it a lot, which is every day when I have to do something miserable, I think two things before the thing I should actually think. The two things I think are, I'm so busy, I'm so stressed out, there's more to do than I can ever possibly get done. Oh my God, I'm gonna die. That's one. Second thing, I go, oh, do I have to hire somebody? Those are the two first thoughts I always have. Those are not the right first thoughts to have in this moment. The right first thought to have is like, how can this never be a problem for me again? And only in this moment have I felt like that is actually a viable option for getting stuff done inside a real company. And so I think Notion is a good solution for this, but often people like forget all the things they can do. So I'm just going to give you, we in sales call this an intimidation slide. It's like a bunch of words that looks really impressive that no one will actually look at. But there's like a whole chunk of stuff that you could just never, ever have to do again or by yourself. And I promise a lot of that is not the stuff that like brings you tons of intrinsic joy in your day to day. And I really do think setting aside time and like being very explicit about burning down this list, it's like tech debt for a burnt out human, is really important, and people do not dedicate enough time to this. And then the last thing I would say from an operating model perspective, so you have like workflows, you have the more tactical, like let's get rid of the mundane stuff. And then I do think like all, and I'm going to go into culture in a minute, but like all operational operating model changes, they get deployed through rituals. Like they get deployed through the touch points by which your team communicates, the touch points by which your team meets, the frequency, the cadence, the place, all that stuff. And I think those rituals are more important than ever right now to get really explicit about. And so, you know, this like 24/7 intern flow. How do we make that visible? Does the intern work on Mondays? Like all these things sort of like create organizational muscle around how stuff gets done. And I think rituals and making this systematic inside your organization is a really effective way to reinforce this new operating model, which honestly I think can change how people do work. And I use that phrase a lot, which is like muscle memory. We all have so much organization muscle memory. Like when I need something prioritized, I ask the PM. When I need a blog post written, I ping marketing. And like, it is very hard to break that muscle. It's just like the thing that you do. And so the more you can create alternative rituals, the more you can actually change the way your team operates and work gets done. And it can often free up some like really creative thinking, really fun work, and a lot of joy. Okay, so the second most important thing is culture. This is the hardest part of all of this. I think culture is honestly at the root of why people don't feel confident in this moment. And I think there's a lot of very specific things that you can do to improve culture, transform culture, change things for your team. So the first thing I say is you have to have permission to experiment. This is a moment of like high rate of experimentation and honestly, high rate of failure. So I'm just going to ask a question. We'll just take it. It's Thursday, so it's a week. Who here, again, I was told to wake you up post lunch. So we're going to do like the hand raising thing. Who here has been disappointed by AI this week? Okay, we've all, yeah, who here has like said like, no, that's me. I just go, no, to AI this week. Every single one of us, every single day, if we're embracing these tools, if we're using these technologies, are like deeply disappointed with them on a regular basis. And our shame is hidden in like the sidebar of Cursor. It's like I would never talk to an intern like this, but dear God, my desperation and sadness can be here. And so much of what I do, it's going to change your life. It's so great, so fun. You can build stuff. You really need to embrace an experimental mindset and a failure mindset and a success mindset. And, you know, as much as we all claim we're like, go fast, break things, we love to experiment, blah, 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 people do not like failure. They do not like sharing failure. They do not like being a naysayer. They don't like saying this doesn't really work. But actually in this moment where there's real impactful transformation happening, the more you can make experimentation truly viable in your organization, the more you're actually going to discover where the leverage is. And so I do think this is a place where our risk tolerance has to get a lot higher. And I'm not saying like risk tolerance for the business perspective. I'm honestly saying like us as individuals, little human hearts, our little team hearts, we need to get a lot more comfortable with sharing failures and successes and being willing also to try. I think so many of us high achievers, I mean, you're like at a conference, spending your time getting better at your job. So many of us are very comfortable around mastering something and then like showing off our mastery. Like that's that feels good at work. Like I'm going to get promoted. I'm such a pro. And I think having an organization that embraces a novice mindset where it's like, actually, we're all new here. We don't all have to be masters. We'll give a lot more of the team permission to learn and start. And it can make a really big difference. And then there's like the actual practical permission to experiment. And somebody told me they did this, and I was like, I recorded a podcast this morning, and they brought basically this slide up, and I was like, this is the first thing I tell people to do. It's so boring and is like table stakes, which is permission to experiment also has to come from G&A, our friends over in G&A, which means that like you have to have money, you have to have structures, and you have to have permission to do this. And so many teams are not confident about their adoption of AI because literally they do not know, am I allowed to? How do I get this? Will anybody pay for it? So the foundations of an experimental mindset are actually found in our Friends Finance, Legal, and Security, which is one, you have to define the golden path for AI tool adoption. Like you have to be like, if you want Bob's AI CodeGen CLI agent that just came out yesterday that everybody's saying is hot, like who do you ask? How do you try? Who's going to pay for it? And then you like gotta get it paid for in a week so that there's acceleration. And so I just think legal finance policy being really aligned on like what is our structural experimentation framework, very helpful. Two, you have to build in public by default. And I think this goes back to like we're also comfortable in like showing off at work. But I think getting into this mindset of like sharing failures and successes in public constantly, somebody called this like extreme many-to-many sharing, which is very, very public, very large channel, and a high amount of volume of sharing right now is going to give you organizational confidence and context about what's working and what's not working for your team. And then failures or successes. So again, no, I told you so. No, like engineers being like, I told you that vibe coding code was crap. Like no designers being like, see, it's all AI slop. Like we're not doing that right now because it's not helpful. It does not help us get to where we want to go. And what I tell people who love to live in this, love to naysay, is I often take them and I say, look, in 2 years, when you're ready for your next job and you're interviewing, do you want to be the person that figured this out or the person that said, I told you so? And they're always like, oh, I got to be the person like has figured this out because everybody recognizes the inevitable, but there's a lot of stress in the immediate. And so I do think from a cultural perspective, these three things go a very, very far way. The other thing I think, and again, maybe this is like a just reflection. I'm a lonely bootstrap solo founder. So you can take this, you just like throw this out if it's not applicable to you. But I do think operating as a team and recognizing these the best analogy for these technologies now, and I know it freaks everybody out, is as an extension of your team. And there's a lot of reasons that make me stressed to share my Slack on like a Zoom, a screen share. The number one is like all my friends are agents and I have no one else to talk to. But I think if you think of these tools as an extension of your team, not as tools used by your team, but an extension of your team, you can include them in how you design your culture, how you design your rituals, how you design your operating model, how you design your rewards, how you design all these things, because they operate much more like interactive teammates than they do like static tools. And so I just think considering this all at the aggregate level is a very helpful cultural mindset. But again, I'm just a lonely lady with six agent friends. Okay, and then the last thing I think you need to do from a cultural perspective, and this is really important in terms of driving internal confidence, is you have to elevate your talent. This is such a moment for talent elevation. This is like career making moments right now. And so rare is there like an external force that can like really change the trajectory of your career. And this is one of them. And I think so many folks get really focused on like what they can build and what they can do. They don't spend enough time inside their teams pitching like how this is actually really, really, really fantastic for people and how it's really, really elevating their most talented, highest impact people. And so I think a lot of, there's confidence from am I going to ship good stuff? There's also confidence of like, are we building the team we want to be on? Do I have a future here? What's my job going to look like? Is this worth it? Like, is this going to be fun? And I do think this is a moment culturally where you really need to elevate talent for two reasons. You need to elevate the voices of the people that are doing all this experimentation work and are leaning in and learning. You also need to elevate your talent, literally elevate them out of the drudgery of doing the work that they don't really enjoy. I tell designers all the time, I was like, you were not put on this earth. Maybe, okay, honestly, maybe some of the Notion designers were, but like, you were not put on this earth to like lay out beautiful forms. Like, I love you, but like, what if we took your craft up a little bit? What would you think about if that wasn't your problem today? Did you go to school because like, oh man, I really wanted to like round that corner in Figma? No, you did not. Like, you have such a higher opportunity to have impact on your craft. And if you can embrace these tools, you can literally like elevate what your work is. And I think that's very, very valuable. So elevate your talent. I also think this is like career making magic right now in the next couple of years. And so if you lean in, you can have a lot of opportunity. Okay. So we're all going to do it. We feel great about it. This pink has like hit all your dopamine centers. But wait, like there are things to think about as you approach this. And like, what are some of the guardrails or warnings that I would give people? Because there are traps. These are the traps I say not to fall into. Not now, not me. Like, good for you, not good for me. This is actually the lecture I give CEOs. Man, they love writing those emails about how AI is going to transform everybody's job but theirs. And so, like, I just think denial waiting is the riskiest move. So you need a forcing function. And that forcing function can come from operating model. It can come from culture. It can come from a scary email. But like, you need a forcing function. And a lot of people are like, it's not yet for me. And it's not yet for me, and then wait, and then 18 months later be like, whoops, I missed, I'm not on the edge. And so I think denial is a big one. Second thing is secrets. There's still so many, everybody's keeping their secrets. And again, it's because people like to look really impressive. And so I think one of the traps that I see right now is there are actually really great pockets of AI adoption. Great. People are doing amazing things. And they tell no one, and they don't know how to teach each other. Like, they actually don't know how to teach each other. I don't think it's ill-intentioned. I think they actually just don't have the scaffold by which their knowledge gets seeded into the organization because they have no interest in doing that work on behalf of the company. And so you have to do it for them. And so I think great ideas go undiscovered. You have to be really, really intentional with your frameworks for sharing. And then vibes only, I would say, like, again, a lot of orgs are like, if I give them tools and I give them permission, we can all just through some tokens and like life will happen well. And I actually think systems are what scale things through organizations. So like systems are really better than vibes. It's one thing, like I hear this a lot from engineering leaders. I was an engineer leader, like, we should use AI to accelerate our product roadmap. Like not actually like, here's how you build a cursor rules to burn down that tech debt that we have in our noisy front end tests. Like, there's just a gap between like, you can vibe your way there and you can systematize your way there. And I think a lot of that is actually hard skills gaps. And so I've been lecturing people a lot on like, this is the era of hard skills. You actually have to have like technical and tactical skills to be able to break down these tools into impact. And so I think it's like really imperative that you don't stay up to date on the sound bites, of which I hope this presentation becomes one. But like, you actually need to know the best practices. You need to know how to use these tools to their advanced degree so you can make systems for them, not just vibe through the day. Okay, so that's my pitch. 3 things: operating model, culture, avoid the traps. What does this mean for you and your team? You're going to be competing with AI native teams more and more. Like, it's just the reality is you used to compete on like new product innovation ideas. Now you're actually competing on the operating model of your team. It's like ground game is different now. And I think you really need to think about what that means for how you show up to the market. It's really important. So in response, you need to craft a strategy to answer that question, because could be higher margin, could be higher velocity, could be a lot of things, but it's going to be different than what you're doing today. You need to design your org operating model and culture with intention. Like, this is not a moment where you're just like, this is going to happen to us. We'll see what happens. It'll be kind of the same, but my SaaS bills will be more expensive. Like, you actually need to design your organization. What role, what structures, what ratios, who goes where, who has what. How do we get work done end to end with intention? And this is a place where, sometimes we might not have a lot of like HR people folks in the room. You have such experience in organization design. Like, this is actually a moment where that's going to intersect with technology in a really interesting way and create some cool jobs. And so every team should have an AI stack and strategy. And then the last thing, again, is there's just no way better to learn than getting hands-on. I'm going to tell you like a really dirty secret. Running a podcast about AI. I reach out to guests who have a lot to say about AI, and I go, great, I would like you to come on and screen share 3 things you do with AI. And they're like, what? I kind of chat GPT every now and then, but I don't actually do anything. Like, this is a moment where hard skills really, really, really matter. I can come up and lecture. I can tell you the world's going to change. Actually, what you need to know is like, how do you prompt things? How do you do, how do you find the right tools? How do you workflow these things together? And so again, hard skill development in this moment is really critical, especially for the execs out there. Okay, so I have a couple challenges I'm going to leave you with. 1, design the AI native version of your team or company. Like, actually write down, be like, if what I believe to be true, or what Claire believes to be true, it's Crazy Lazy with the agent friends believes to be true, is true, what is our team going to look like? How is that going to be designed? And actually do that, and then work backwards on the plan to get there. It doesn't have to be like, today we change everybody's title and no one talks to anybody but an @mention in Slack. Like, we work backward from plan to get there. The second thing, this is a very fun one. You should actually do this every week. Write down your personal anti-to-do list and then just like spend an hour a day burning that down. Hold me accountable to it. I still fall into the like, who do I need to hire? I'm going to fail. I'm so stressed out. When actually like, this is the answer. And the other good thing about this is it really is like just a very practical, high reward, high cycle way to build hard skills. And so this is one of like the most practical things I could recommend you do. And then my challenge 3 is like, have fun. This is truly, 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 truly the most fun moment I've had in multiple decades of being in technology. I just think like I get to do more fun things with my time. I get to learn more things. I get to touch more stuff. It is just a delight. And so I think one of the cultural gifts this moment can give teams is like a moment to re-embrace the fun of creation and the fun of learning new technologies and the fun of like actually being pretty wowed by what's possible right now, which is a feeling I haven't felt in a really long time. So I've never had more fun. I think like there's this joyous moment. And I think if you can make that like a scaled cultural moment, you can have a really high impact. So that's it. That's how you ship with confidence in AI. Please say hi to me. I really appreciate it and enjoy the rest of your day.